Okay, let's get started. Thank you for joining us for the monthly ramp up presented to you by Franchise Ramp. My name is Evan Lacivita, Franchisee Success Manager here at Franchise Ramp, and I'm super excited for the latest edition of this webinar series that includes a mix of valuable marketing insights along with a featured interview with the franchisee. Today, we have Paola Perez Allende of CycleBar Rochester Hills joining us. I'll be asking her to share her experiences with us later. Really looking forward to it. We will start today with some actionable marketing insights from Franchise Ramp account manager Nathan Hall. And thank you all so much for attending today. The monthly ramp ups goal is to give you a coherent picture of what's happening at the intersection of marketing and franchising. We want this to be a tight-knit community for franchisees to share knowledge and gain insight. Our mission at Franchise Ramp is to help franchisees realize their entrepreneurial dreams. We were tired of working with digital marketing agencies who didn't understand franchising or sales in general, so we took matters in our own hands, became Facebook experts, and added other digital marketing experts to our team. We are the new standard in franchise digital marketing and help clients obtain more quantity and higher quality leads. And please come back and join us again next month. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Franchise Ramp account manager, Nathan Hall.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming, whether you're watching live right now or in the future. I hope you enjoy this presentation. And today we'll be looking at some actionable items on the consumer journey and exactly on how to zero in on their experience when they come in and they take a class with you. So if we could go on to the next slide. So what is the customer experience? We all know what the customer journey is, but what is the experience that a customer takes when they come in and they take a Pilates class or a yoga class? Well, what we can see here is myself with the Millennium Falcon and Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. So what do these two things have in common? Well, one is Disney World, the other Caesar's Palace, and they both make you feel like you're transported into a historical world or a fictional world. And that idea is to really build the experience the consumer has at their park or at the casino. So let's define that customer experience. When a service is used as the stage and the good as a prop to engage the customer. Now, think about it. When you go to your barbershop or you go to your salon, that's still an experience a lot of the time. Now, if you go to Sports Clips, that might be a little different. But if you go to the same barber or the same salon, there's always gossip or there's always banter going on between whoever's cutting your hair or your friends that are in the barbershop or the salon. And it does the same thing that what I saw there with the Millennium Falcon and Caesar's Palace does, but on a very small scale. It makes you a part of the experience because we all know in popular culture how people like to gossip at the salon or guys like to banter at the barbershop. It's a little different than feeling like you're in Rome where you're gambling or where you're hanging out with a Millennium Falcon. But that's really important. And if we can go to the next slide, we can see how to stage that experience. And you do that in three main steps. One, by taking positive cues. Two, eliminating the negative cues. And three, understanding that you are what you change for. So let's break these down. First, let's start with positive cues. Now, these are going to be affirming words when engaging with your customer before they come in to your studio or while they're in the studio or afterwards. So let's think about this like a stage as we're staging the experience. When we're starting to prep to go on stage, we're going through rehearsals. That's when we're engaging with the consumer to bring them in, when we're trying to get that lead to convert and come in to meet us. Now, what do we do with that? Well, I like to use Yoga 6 for this example because they have a lot of strong branded wording that they use in a lot of their marketing materials, such as let's get you situated or your mat is waiting for you. And that does a really good job of making the consumer feel like they're a part of that experience. When they go into a Yoga 6, they can understand that I'm going to go get situated and be a part of that little community. Kind of similar when you think about when you're going into your salon or your barbershop, not similar in the sense that it's that branded wording, but they're a part of that experience. Now, what is eliminating negative cues? Well, this is really important because I was just working on a Pure Bar campaign and I saw a testimonial video where they were talking about how it's their 50 minutes to go in and be a part of a class where they can forget the outside world and just better themselves and hang out with some friends for about an hour. And that's really important because when you are eliminating negative cues from the outside, that's an inherent trend to a positive cue. Now, what I mean by that is if you're bringing in issues from the outside into the class, that could run the risk of ruining the experience of working out at the bar class with friends. Now, what you really want to do in line with this is use strong branded wording when talking to your customer before, during, and after their experience. Because when you keep that consistency, you make them disassociate from the problems that they're having. Now, when you're understanding what you are, what you change for, that's really important because when you go in to understanding what the positive and negative cues are, you can't go in half baked. You have to go in and understand with you and your team that if one person starts creating negative cues, that could ruin the experience for customers down the line. Because remember what it's like when you go into your barber's salon. You go in because you're trying to forget what's going on the outside just to enjoy your time with your friend or with a group of friends with some gossip, banter, while also getting a haircut. It's very similar. You go into your bar class, you work out, you come out feeling, and in the future, looking a lot better because you're bettering yourself through positivity. And if we can move on to the next slide, we can go over one of my journeys. I went up, so just for you, some little context, I live in the town of Maricopa in Arizona. It's about a 40-minute drive outside of Phoenix. I found the closest club Pilates that we work with near me, Chandler. So I went through, I took the customer journey, I found an ad, I went through the ad, and I set up my own class doing what any customer would do. And the great part about this is it was ease of use signing up through Facebook, as we all know. But the real important part when we were setting up the stage is the point of contact. I got immediately in contact with the store manager and I had some issues getting my waiver form signed. The email just didn't populate for me. Well, we were in constant contact and got that troubleshoot fixed right away. And that shows how important it is just going through that experience. It was very easy for me. Now, when I got there, I was really impressed with how clean, and we'll see in a picture in a little bit later, how clean and spotless that studio was when I finally got on stage. So if we move on to the next slide, how do you properly engage your customer in an experience? Well, by giving your customer an active role in their experience and the journey. As we just saw, I had an issue with my customer experience and my journey, but I was an active participant in solving it. So when I was able to take part in solving the issue that I had during my journey and my experience to Club Pilates for my intro class, it felt great. I didn't feel like I was lost in the wind because I forgot to mention one very important thing. When I signed up through that lead form on Facebook, I got contacted 10 minutes later. So it was almost instantaneous. I had it fresh on my mind. And that's just a great example of that studio doing really well to keep me actively engaged in the experience of saying, hey, we value you. Come on into our studio. If we move on to the next slide, we can delve in a little deeper onto how my experience was with my class and within the studio itself and bring up a little bit more about the positive and negative cues. So with that said, what do we see on the screen here? Well, there is a clean and clear presentation of the equipment in the community at Club Pilates Chandler. What really struck me was how spotless the studio was. Not only was it actually just clean, but the aesthetic, the feel, everything was well organized, well placed, and felt and looked extraordinarily clean. And that one of the instructors there told me when they moved on from a separate Pilates studio, they said, this here is very well ran, it's very clean, and it feels modern. And that was really important to me too, understanding that. But that's also really important because when we look at the community that was built there, they need a real reason to go other than just the equipment being clean. They need that active participation and experience with others. Think back to the salon or barbershop. How do we get that? Well, what we have here on the left side is the Wall of Fame, where people will sign their name when they reach 250 classes, 500 classes. And as the manager told me while I was at the studio, they were having to put up a placard for a single customer because she was the only one to reach 1,000 classes. And that shows you that she is so committed and so involved in that community that she is the trailblazer in getting to 1,000 classes. And that creates a nice little competitive advantage between her and the other members, because they probably want to catch up to her and maybe surpass her if they're not too far behind. Now, another very important thing is when I was in the studio, I became friends with Kylie. We just so happened to start chit-chatting while I was getting set up for my class, and we both found out we're from Nevada. She's from Reno, I'm from Las Vegas. Found out she worked in Las Vegas for a while. So we started talking about just kind of the local things in Vegas that most of us from Vegas would know rather than a tourist. And I felt immediately a part of that community because they did a great job of engaging with me rather than, hey, let's get him through and try to sell him. I actually made a friend. And that was another part of using, those positive cues and keeping me actively engaged in that experience in the community itself. And that's one important thing to know. It doesn't just have to be like Disney World or Caesar's Palace, where it transports you into a historical or fictional location. It can also be something as simple as, hey, come get your name on the Wall of Fame. If we go on to the next slide, we can talk about how to truly measure the experience. So it's all great and good talking about positive, negative cues and my journey and how clean the Club Pilates studio was and how fun the class was and how awesome the studio instructors were. But how do we truly measure this? Well, it really comes down to this equation. Customer sacrifice equals what a customer wants exactly and what a customer settles for. So I've talked about a lot of positives thus far, even though I ran into a hiccup trying to get my waiver signed. But what was another issue that I ran into? Well, going into the studio, I wore closed-toe shoes, I had socks, and I thought I just needed that, my person, and maybe a bottle of water in my phone. But when I got there, I found out I needed grip socks, and that set me back a little bit. But the journey that I had and the experience that I immediately had felt welcoming, seeing how clean and well held together the studio was and how quick and painless it was to get signed up and troubleshoot with the instructors on the location really just outweighed me having to spend a little extra money that I didn't expect myself to do because the experience was so enjoyable. And I can tell you this, when I was at that studio, if it wasn't an hour drive away from me, I would definitely be going back. I like working out myself personally, and just going into a studio where there's a great community, make friends, talk to people, which is a little different than going to a big gym, is really nice. And it's a shame for me personally that I live miles away and can't really make a 2-hour commute every day just to work out for an hour. So move on to the next slide. We can go and look into the conclusion. We've talked about the different kinds of experiences. We've talked about how to stage it, what the stage looks like, and taking the Pilates class, getting through the issues of getting there. And now when we're wrapping it up, what do we see? Well, I was contacted multiple times afterwards, just through the automated system saying, hey, we really enjoyed you coming back. And then a personal text as well saying, we know you couldn't come back in, but we really enjoyed you coming by. And that meant a lot. Just a simple little text like that can go such a long way to making us feel as a customer really involved in that experience. Now, how do we keep this up? Well, one, we got to use positive cues. Remember that branded wording. 2, keep out the negatives. Try to keep it contained within the 15 minutes. Try to keep it a closed system where you're there with your friends, you're gossiping like you're at your salon, or you're bantering like you're at your barber shop. 3, build a communal sense of accomplishment. Think back to the Wall of Fame with multiple people jockeying for power and one getting to the top of 1,000 classes before the rest. And 4, become friends with anybody who walks in through that door. Some of them don't want to be friends with you, but I guarantee you most of them will, because when they see how awesome and engaging your community is and how friendly you are as an owner, an instructor, or a manager, they're more likely to come back. Because like I said, I would have gone back and I would still be going back if I didn't live 2 hours away. And with that, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. Fascinating breakdown of the importance of creating an enticing customer-centric experience. If anybody has any questions for Nathan about that topic, just pop them into the chat and we will definitely get to those. And now I would like to formally introduce franchisee and owner of CycleBar Rochester Hills, Paola Perez Allende. Paola's professional background is as an engineer. She then went on to earn her certification in HR and administration. Paola is now a true entrepreneur and runs several other businesses in Mexico, such as retail and real estate. And she loves challenges and learning from new experiences. And I can say from working with Paola that I certainly appreciate her focused approach to running her business. And it's my pleasure to have her with us today. Paola, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Evan, for the opportunity and inviting me. It's I feel very special with all this introduction. Thank you very much. But thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it really is our pleasure, and we certainly appreciate it. Let's start off by hearing your story. We like the franchise story. How did you get into franchising, and can you describe that journey for us?
Sure. So let's start saying that I was in the other side of the coin. So I was the owner from, we own a company in Mexico with 65 swimwear stores. And we were the ones that franchisee to other people. So I was the one that always telling the people how things work or how I wanted to be, because we had this special thing in our mind, how we wanted things to be run, right? So this time trying something completely different that is not retail per se or real estate that has to be now with fitness, it has been completely different. So we decided and we found out CycleBar. And to be quite honest, it has been like a really enjoyable situation. They have everything under control. They have different scenarios, and they have taught me as well how to be a franchisor, right? And how to help my other businesses to grow as well and learn from them. So it has been two sides, very struggling because they know and they have timelines for everything, and they push you to do all that stuff, right? And then to be on time, and you're late, and then you're not doing that. But at the same time, you feel accompanied through all the process. So it's been hard and easy. I appreciate it, and sometimes I don't appreciate that much. But it has been a fun journey. It has been very rewarding, and to see so many other visions from all the other franchisees has been very, eye-opening, because we are in the same boat, and then we are all expecting the same things, but we are also facing the same things in different states. So it has been like very, very exciting. I've been talking to people all over United States and talking about how they are doing, how are they doing this stuff, how are they handling it, and how we can do it from here. And then, it's very, it's a nice journey. We've been enjoying it a lot, and it's been with ups and downs, more downs than ups right now, but we're hanging in there.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that. Yeah, and I think that is it's exactly why we wanted you on, that unique perspective, right? You've got a depth of experience that kind of gives you another lens on it. But you just pointed out it has been a challenge. So opening a new studio, always daunting during the age of COVID, especially so. So can you describe a little bit more detail that experience so far?
Well, it has been, well, I always think that things can get fixed, right? If you did wrong, you can fix it, and then you go ahead and you will cope, and then but during this COVID thing and learning the area that we are, it has been really, hard for us. And then you've seen that, because every time that we talk, I change my mind in things that we talked the prior weeks. So it has been difficult because we learn how people here exactly in our area, in our mile range that we are allowed to promote our business, they think, and how are they feeling about the situation right now. So moving accordingly without being, like a boat, that if some people says, I don't like it, and then you turn your ship into that way, or, oh, I do like it, and then turn it all the way. And then you're upside down because you don't have focus on what you want. That is very challenging, because you want to please everyone, and then you want everybody to be happy, and then welcome them to your studio, and then learn and have the experience, right? But you need to have focus on what you want, where you want to go. And then if there are some people that they don't like it, like these picture that we posted with a face mask, people starting to complain. But when we didn't put the mask, people starting to complain as well. And we were like, oh my gosh, so Evan, stop back in pain, and then put it back, So we need to be very focused on what we want to go, what we want to achieve, and then what we want to tell people, and then maintain, the course, and then yes, moving forward, but not, moving like from one side to another. So that has been very stressful. That has been very challenging. And CycleBar for us requests us to start doing a pre-sale before we start the studio. They have their numbers, their economics very well sustained to say that. But we received a lot of comments from people saying, and you've seen that, I want to try it first before I buy. So what's first, the egg or the chicken, right? We want to open, but we can't because we don't have enough people. So it has been very challenging. We have to maintain a balance. So we are all going to have this boat afloat. And when the time comes, we don't have any struggle maintaining us in that position. So learning, listening, trying to be inclusive with all the people. We received so many as well comments saying that, why are you posting only pretty girls, thin, like, are we other kind of people older, can we go? So I tried to keep up with every single person that was posting and trying to maintain them and make them feel inclusive, make them feel comfortable, and what was the real intention of doing certain posts, certain advertisings, what was the real situation in here. So I guess that gave me ups and downs. I talk to you about that all the time, like, oh my gosh, what do I say? People is complaining, but people is saying that they are so happy. So we need to breathe and then maintain calm and where we want to go, and then keep the course in doing that, and be positive, I guess, in the process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly appreciate the positivity that you maintain on these calls, because it is a challenge. And I like your boat analogy, right? It takes a bit to kind of shift from one direction to the other. And you don't want to lose focus of what your goal is. But yeah, it is a challenge. What you described is, again, pretty typical of that experience, and all these new instances that are popping up. You think you react one way, but yeah, every challenge is unique. You gotta figure out what is the right approach to each one, and what impact does it have in the overall mission. But yeah, I think on that note, you are progressing, you are moving forward. So what results so far have you achieved with your location, and what do you think were the biggest contributors to that success so far?
Well, I guess opening was a big thing, was a big target, right? And then I kept saying, like, Evan, as soon as we're open, everything is going to be easier. We're going to have more leads, and people starting trusting, because at the beginning, when we started promoting, there was no even signage out of the studio. So people was like, what are you saying? I see a chiropractor there, and then you're saying you're a CycleBar. So people started to have a little bit, back up on that, and we're not trusting a lot of what we were saying in that point in time. So as soon as we opened, we, the owners, are there like 24/7, if I can say that, right? So we are there. I've been trying to talk to every single person and try to explain what we're doing, explain what's the idea of having this community and start building a community. So that has helped us a lot, that people has a face and has someone to talk to and refer to. And if they have any inconvenience, any question, anything, any simple thing, we are there with a happy face. And even though we're struggling to find personnel to help us, that's why we have to be there 24/7, because there's no people that can work or want to work or whatever the situation is right now. So it has been a challenge there. The challenge that people still a little bit worried about what's going to happen. So we made a big investment now in special filters that kill bacteria. So we're trying to tell the people what we're doing for them to feel comfortable and pass along the information. So in my head, I always think that we need to be very wide open on what we're doing and what are our intentions. So people feel the transparency and what's the real goal for all of us. Of course, it's a business, but we are also trying to build a community. Everything started because we were not feeling included in another studio that we used to do cycling, and we were, being separated, not considered. So we really wanted to bring something additional, something more personalized to people, and to bring them more options. So apparently, people starting to react to that, and then they're seeing the good intentions that we have to bring something else to this area, to this community, because cycling was not that common in here as a boutique. It was like only the big box gym. So that has been a struggle for us as well, to educate people in many different areas.
Got it. Yeah. It sounds like the challenge is awareness, but also just letting people know how open and inclusive you are. And it seems like the solution is just being ready to meet your audience with that message and just honestly be there, right? And be available and have those conversations. Yeah. So borrowing from your experience elsewhere, what do you think has been your advantage, your skills and experiences that you've acquired? And again, unique situation, right? You've kind of been on both sides of this. But what do you think is your strength in running this business so far?
Well, we are for owners, right? Two couples. So we have different areas in there. So we've been able to put into the business. So I have a experience in retail that I've worked 10 years in retail. So doing that portion of retail and marketing with you has helped us to, put that thing in one person and then take the leadership on that part. Finance, sales. So we have all put a little bit together with all the experience that we have and put it into the business, and finding the perfect general manager so we can, build her and help her on any area that she needs and support her and make her, to feel that this is for her as well, that she belongs here, and this is as well as ours is hers. So she is putting all her heart, her mind, her time, everything to build that up with us and pull all together. Because when you're pulling all by yourself or only one, and then everybody's pulling in different sizes, it's a mess. You need to be like in the same, path and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. So having experience, even though all of us are engineers, but we have different experiences, we have different abilities and different points of view. Every head is a different world, right? So we're pulling and then trying to be in the same page all the time and pulling all together. So that has given us that opportunity. And I can say that I am always open to hear new things. Like every time I come to you and then I'm like struggling, doubting, I want more, then the next time I want less, but you always give me like, okay, so let's focus, let's breathe, and then let's see what's going to be the best thing to do. So I'm always open to listen. It's not that I want one thing and then that's the only thing that we're going to do. So that has helped us to keep moving forward and pull the boat into the same way, same path.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that. It's this theme of keeping focus and keeping your eye on the bigger goal, and then along the way, leveraging teamwork, other folks that are on your side, and being open to advice, and also having an awesome GM, right? That can be like your superpower is to have someone on the ground actually pulling everything together for you. Awesome. Earlier, Nathan was talking about the studio environment and creating a customer-centric experience. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're doing that with your CycleBar studio?
Sure. So CycleBar is always encouraging us to build a community, but also include other businesses, small businesses as well, so we can pull all together, right? So doing that, we are very, I guess, feet are in the ground. I guess that's a thing to say. So we are always trying to meet new people and include them in whatever we're doing and inviting them to join forces with us. But everything at the end is for the customers, for our members. So we are always thinking about them first. So it's not for us doing a business, it's for us that when I do a grassroots or do I do an event, I always think like, what would my members would like to have? What will they be benefit for all these stuff? So when that happens in there, people start reacting easily, like it was like snowball. So right now on this weekend, we're doing this beauty boost event at the studio, and we're telling the people, hey, this is going to happen, you are invited. So we're trying to look at them and see what they are willing to have, some things that are new, some things that are like they don't know, but they could interest. So we're trying, what we always do is to look at the members first. So they are the most important thing, because without them, these will not be a business. So the most important them. And we try also to include all the other members or like staff, like our CBXs, they are the ones that do the experience. So these girls were like, I want to work on Sunday because I want to be at the event. And I was like, yeah, so come, don't work because it's not your shift. Come, take a look, have a class, enjoy what everything we're having. So they feel special as well. So every time that we want to do something new, they are involved from heart, you know, like something. So we're trying to build more roots in a different way, like bonds, instead of just the owner and the assistant or the GM. So we're trying to build maybe more than a community, like a big, huge, humongous family in there. So people want to come more and they tell other people to come. We're not just a fitness center. We are something more than that. So always looking for please, I guess, the members and everyone that's working for you.
Yeah, that's excellent. I like that, the extended idea of community, and that is, of course, a big part of what that is and why it's attractive to be a member of a CycleBar studio. But bringing it out beyond just the studio and having it rooted in the staff, the ownership, the people who are working there, and then extending that out to folks. And of course, you're at a point now where you're just beginning that, but if you continue that, then it'll grow and grow from there. That's fantastic. Paola, this has been really helpful. I truly appreciate it. I've got one final question for you. So far, what maybe one key lesson have you learned, or what advice would you give to franchisees who are just starting out? That's two different questions, but you can kind of pick and choose how you want to answer.
Yeah, well, I guess hang in there, you know, like it's there's sometimes that you feel that it's a lot, but they have figured it out. They know. So sometimes it's just hang in there. Like today is today, and I don't want to think about in 1 month what's going to happen right now. Just when you're starting, just at the beginning is the hardest part at the beginning, when you're starting to, you open your doors, and that's when the real show starts. So just hang in there for those couple of months, because it's not going to be more. It's going to take time to understand the system, to understand the process, to learn people's name. You know, like the other day when girl, she came in and she was like, it's amazing how you know all their names. And I'm like, well, yeah, you know, that's my job, for you to feel special. And I want you to feel that you're at home. So, and there's this other girl that sometimes she's talking, and then she comes in 2 classes because she entered into one, and then she kept talking with me or the Cycle Star, and then she entered to the next class. That's what we're looking for. So when you grab that, and then you are there, you find that time in these first 2 months, then everything will flow easily, because you will understand everything else. So I guess it's hanging there for a couple of months, and then everything will flow like it's going to be fine.
Excellent. I like that. Yeah, the classic hang in there. And of course, like you were saying all along, keep your focus, keep the bigger goal in mind, have a purpose. That's something else, building that community and kind of keeping in mind why you got into that in the first place. So yeah, fantastic. Love that advice. And of course, you are living that advice. You are hanging in there, and you are figuring out together. So
we're almost there. We're almost there. Hanging in there. That's what it has to keep us our head out of the water.
Right. Yes. All right. Excellent. Again, thank you, Paola. Really valuable. Really appreciate it. All right. We can do some Q&A now. If there's any questions, just pop them up in the chat here. Questions for Nathan or Paola. We'll just give a minute here. All right, we do have one question. All right, this is for Nathan. Yeah, is there a measurable indicator of customer experience? Yeah, good question, because it's kind of a nebulous idea. So yeah, Nathan.
Yeah, there's a few ways. And one's the most simple is just talking to the customers just after a class and just pick their brain and see how they're doing. Kind of like what we were talking about, just knowing their name and getting to know them. And that's also very nebulous, but it's just if you're really knowing them on an individual level, that's the best way to do it, I think. But there's also other ways too. Through my time in college, I used a software called Qualtrics. I've used SurveyMonkey, and I've built multiple just surveys just to ask the overall how they're liking the experience, how they're enjoying the classes. And if you start seeing those community events that you might be putting on or your wall of fame growing, as a measurable indicator, looking at those, hey, it's working. And there will be issues, kind of like Murphy's Law. There's always something that's been going wrong with COVID, which might slow down your community events, or your wall of fame might start slowing down a little bit because people are a little unsure. But as things are starting to ramp back up, we can see, look at those measurable ideas again. Because like I brought up in my presentation, that wall of fame went from 500 classes to 1,000. So I think there was a really good smaller example of that studio was able to see it in the flesh really working.
Yeah, absolutely. I think net promoter score, right? That's a classic example of trying to get some data behind customer sentiment. But yeah, Nathan just pointed out there's a variety of different ways that you can go about doing that. And it really is specific to what your goal is. What are you trying to achieve with the customer experience? Like Paola was saying, the community that you're trying to build. All right. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions. So I'm gonna call it. That does it for another edition of the monthly ramp up. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Nathan, again, thank you for wonderful insights there. And Paola, thank you so much. This was a pleasure and really helpful. I really appreciate your perspective. And yeah, thanks everyone. We already can't wait to see you next time. And we look forward to working with you to achieve your entrepreneurial dreams.